Welcome back, TCS viewers. Chris Niccolls here of the Camera Store, and it is a beautiful day today for a change. And did you know that Calgary has actually one of the largest networks of multi-use walkways in North America? We're going to make use of those walkways today, just walk around and play with the Nikon D7100. Very, very cool new camera. Now, I have to admit, when this camera first came out, I was not super impressed because I'm thinking, what have they really changed from the D7000? But upon playing with it, there's some amazing, very cool features, and I want to show you guys those today. So let's head on the walkways and see what we get. So I want to take a bit of time here, guys, and just talk about what stuff is the same as the D7000. When it comes to the body design, we actually have a lot of similarities. It feels a lot like a D7000 or a D600 for that matter. They're very, very similar body design. Controls are almost exactly the same. We'll talk a little bit about that later on. The autofocus selector switch, I like that. I think this new system works really well, and they've maintained that. Same battery as well. Viewfinder is very similar, although we do have a different layout, and we do have a crop factor, and I want to show you guys that as well. But all over, the camera has that very familiar feel, and you're going to like that if you're coming from that system. Dual SD slot, of course, too. That seems to be working well in these cameras. But they have also changed a lot of stuff on the inside. We're going to talk about that next. Now, here's something super exciting about the D7100. You know, 24 megapixels on a crop sensor, I know that's nothing new, you know, the 5200 and the 3200. But what's great about this and what I love is that they didn't just take the same sensor and run it through their whole lineup. They've actually put the sensor in here without the anti-aliasing filter. Now, of course, that's going to promise us increased sharpness. It's going to give us really, really good detail. Maybe more will be an issue, and I'm going to test that out when we shoot video as well. But let's just go over here next to the river and take some shots and see what is the resolution really like on here. Are we going to get a nice benefit? We'll have a look. So Jordan and I were very curious about how a camera like the D7100 with its new type of sensor can compete against something maybe full frame like a D600. Now, we've got the same megapixel count, but obviously we're talking about different crop rates. Just want to see how well does that smaller sensor hold up against the 600. Well, we're going to shoot on the 70-200 f4 from Nikon, and I know it's not going to be scientifically exact, but we're going to shoot the D600 at about 135. We're going to shoot the D7100 at about 85. That way we're not shooting the extremes of the lens, and we are also going to be able to look at the exact same resolution, megapixels wise. We're going to take two shots here, nice and stabilized, look off in the distance, and see exactly what we get. So I've been walking about 30 seconds now, 100 feet, so I'm pretty tired, so I'm going to take a rest on this bench here. And I want to talk to you guys about the white balance, actually. This is very, very cool. Now, Nikon's got their standard white balancing system. They have that, you know, controversial Auto 1 and Auto 2, you know, based on how you want your colors to turn out, and all the same standard fare with shifting. But what's really cool about this now, which is cool, I've never seen this on any other SLR, is I go into live view, I go to my white balance, my preset, and I just hold down the WB button like I always would to do white balance presets, and I get this box, and I can literally move it wherever I want on the live view, hit OK, and it just measures it. You know what's great about this? It's like getting white balance preset on a point and shoot, which has always been fantastic to use. Now we have it on SLR in live view, and I love it. It works really, really well. All right, folks, so we're shooting out here now just to use the photographer's favorite word, juxtaposition. We love using that word. So here we go. We got the natural habitat, the growth of the bulrushes, and then the growth of the city behind. It's very, very poetic. But what I'm really trying to do is focus on this very challenging light scene. We got lots of bright snow and ice. We've got dark shadows. And shooting here on the D7100, it actually does handle it beautifully. We're getting everything to fit in our histogram with what we would expect at -1 exposure on our meter, and it's doing a really, really nice job. So we're going to take a look at this, see what we can do with highlights and shadows later on. But so far, very impressive. So shooting this camera here, we've got an interesting feature I want to talk about, and that's this crop factor. We've got this 1.3 crop factor assist. Now the D7100, of course, is a 1.5 crop factor camera, and at that frame you're going to get about 6 pictures per second shooting, which is nice. But if you need that little bit extra, maybe for wildlife or sports, you can put it into DX crop mode right here, just in the menu. And then what I can do is I can set it now to 1.3 additional crop. It makes a little bit of a difference on the photo, as you can see here. But what it also gives us is the option now to push 7 frames per second. It's just that nice little extra kick if we need it. And considering that we've got 24 megapixel sensor, we can afford to drop down to 16 and get that extra push. All right, so just our customary high ISO performance that we do in our videos here. I am going to shoot the D600 at 6400 ISO as well, just to compare the two and see how they handle each other. But so far, it looks very, very impressive for low light. Now, when we talk about video on the D7100, first off, Jordan and I are very impressed. This camera behaves beautifully. Image quality is top notch. We love the audio level controls, and of course, we also love headphone jack. So these are all huge, huge pluses. In fact, the only big disappointing factor is you still have that annoying aperture control, or lack thereof, when you're shooting in live view. That's just such a speed bump for otherwise an excellent video camera. Now, one thing I am curious about though, with the lack of an aliasing filter, are we gonna have moire, especially when we're down converting from 24 megapixels to our high def resolution. I'm gonna try and experiment and see if we get any. All right, folks, and I'm sorry to do this to you, but I'm taking video here of Jordan's pants. You know, we've got potential for moire here. Now, I know it's not a very exciting subject matter, although if you get into them, maybe it's more exciting. But what we are not seeing here is moire. And that's impressive. I mean, even with the lack of filter, I'm not getting really any moire patterns at all. So overall, a very interesting experiment and very good result. Now, autofocus on the D7100, well, I mean, nothing exciting, nothing new, but it is the best autofocusing Nikon has to offer. We get our full 51-point autofocusing system, very much like what you'd find in a D300S or D700. It's got a great array across the field, and I love 3D autofocusing on Nikons. It works fantastic. Very quick, very accurate. It's nice to see a camera at this price point with the best autofocusing you can get from Nikon. All right, so we're back here at the classroom, printing out some photos that we're going to compare later, and just having a look at some of the shots that we took on the computer here. I want to look at high ISO first. Now, the 7100 is very impressive for a crop sensor camera. I'd say it's a little bit better than the D7000, which is great considering we're getting 24 megapixels of resolution. But a lot of people are claiming it has superhuman ability when it comes to low light performance, and I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. The camera is good, but as you get up to about 1600 and 3200 ISO, you're going to notice a lot of noise and definitely loss of detail. Also, I'm surprised we're getting a lot of chromatic noise on this camera, and that's okay. It's easily dealt with in post-processing, but it's there. Now, I shot the D600 full-frame sensor at 6400 ISO. Let's compare it to the 7100 at 6400 ISO. As you can see, the full-frame sensor is going to win. There's just no contest. In fact, I'd give it an almost two-stop advantage. You'd have to shoot the D7100 at 1600 ISO to get a similar grain structure and look to the D600 at 6400 ISO. So, you know, full-frame is going to give us that advantage. And we're going to take a look at these two shots here when it comes to dynamic range. Now, the 7100 versus the D600, you'd expect the full-frame sensor to do better, and it does. I mean, shadow detail, though, it's very subtle. The 600 only has slightly more shadow detail coming out as we push it. The 7100 does a really good job there. Where you'll notice the difference is the highlights. We can definitely recover far more highlight information out of the 600 files than we can out of the 7100, but still, they're very close. We're getting good histograms here on both. I'd say the 7100 is incredibly impressive considering its smaller sensor size. All right, so this is the part I'm excited to see, and that is, how does the 7100 handle resolution? I mean, looking at this shot here with the 7100, it is noticeably sharper by eye. Getting rid of that filter makes a big difference. The D600 is very close, but you just get nice fine details here, and the dynamic range, as we've talked about already, is very, very close. The fact that the D7100 can get us this kind of image quality at the price point it's at is a huge, huge win for it in a lot of ways. You know, I'm having a hard time thinking about things about the 7100 I don't like, other than, of course, that annoying aperture control for video, but by now we're just used to that. The camera handles well, it's got the best focusing available from Nikon, dynamic range is impressive, and the photo quality is sharp, sharp, sharp. High ISO performance is about the only downside I can see here, and that's only because of its sensor size. All in all, if you're a landscape photographer, you're going to love this. If you're a wildlife or sports shooter, you're going to like the crop factor that you can get, you're going to like the fast frame rate, and the camera's certainly rugged enough to handle it. I think the D7100 is going to find itself in the camera bags of a lot of people out there. If you want sharp results, this is definitely the camera for you.
Hi guys, it's Jordan, the video guy coming out from behind the camera to talk about the new Cineroid EVF. Now, it was a pretty bright day while we were out filming, so I really like to have an electronic viewfinder. You can really see what you're shooting, and it makes focus a lot easier. So I brought this out today, and I've used the Zacuto ZEVF quite a bit. I actually like a few things about this quite a bit more. First and foremost, in addition to the regular HDMI input, this also gives me an SDI input, so I can use it with my FS700, get a nice secure connection. Even if your camera doesn't have SDI right now, it's really nice to know down the road if you get one, you got a nice locking connection. Now the important thing about an EVF is the quality of the display, and this one is just stunning. When we were out there today, I found I didn't even have to magnify the focus to check. I could see as soon as I'd nailed it. It was really nice. Now my only issue is the build quality of the loop itself. Doesn't really inspire confidence. Feels a little bit flimsy, especially the diopter on it. I'd like to see a little higher quality. But all things considered, for the price that you're paying, this is an excellent option if you're looking for an EVF. I would definitely check this one out. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you soon.